Hey everybody, this is Sinclair here, and welcome back to Redstone for Beginners. The last time I talked about repeaters and comparators, and if you would like to see the video on that, go ahead and click on the description below or in the annotations. I got links for you to check out there, with specific titles for each of the lessons, so you know what they're about. But this time, I'm going to be talking about hoppers, dispensers, and droppers. First thing, let's talk about hoppers. Now these these are essentially used for just moving items around the Minecraft world. They can also be used to keep like kind of a constant charge for some other types of components. But in this instance, just right now, we're going to be talking about just basic kind of hopper function. Now you can see right here, like if we were to kind of block this out, now you've got a space here for your hopper, right? Now, I think most of us know that hoppers will take an item and they will move it to things that they are attached to, right? So for instance, if I just did that, bam, it disappears, travels through the hoppers, and comes out here, right? Fairly simple. But they are fairly limited in that they can't go up at all. They can only go vertically or... not vertically, I'm sorry. They can only go horizontally or down to drop things in there. So that's, while hoppers are pretty useful, and as I think I mentioned before, in like an automatic farm setup, you would put these down at the bottom so that water could take your stuff to the hoppers, which would then spit it into a chest for you. I also like to use them. I don't know if the servers you play on allow you to place spawners, but I also like to put those in there as a means to collect the drops that the spawns will drop when you kill them. So yeah, that's hoppers. There's not a whole lot to them, but like I said, later on they become a little more adaptable in that you use them just for like kind of a constant power source. So that brings us over to here, where this is a system which includes a dropper. Now, what we can do here is we put the obsidian in the chest, it pulls it out, brings it into the dropper, and boop, pops it out for you. That's just an example of how droppers work there. If we move on over here, now let's talk about droppers and dispensers specifically for a moment. Now, you can see, except for the quote-unquote mouths here, they're essentially, they look almost exactly the same. And for all intents and purposes, except for certain situations, they do essentially the same thing. They'll spit out an item for you, right? Awfully helpful. You come over here, and they can be pointed. Now you can see at this point there is a notable difference between them. If it's not facing just forward, they lose the face, and then they just end up with these holes here. Now this is a dropper hole, and this is a dispenser hole. Eventually, once again, they essentially do the same thing. Bam. And bam. So, that's awfully handy, right? Okay. So, now we come to the major difference between dispensers and droppers. Now, you can see they're both set up the same way, both chests. So, when you hit the dispenser, it will not, no matter what you do, pop an item into that chest. However, droppers can. That is essentially the big difference between droppers and dispensers. Droppers are used as a means to enable movement between items. So we'll go back to this idea over here before, right? We put in redstone here. It travels down into the hopper, or to the dropper, which then you can see it's all over. Actually, I should have been using a button for this. Well, let me do that again with the buttons so you can see it. Okay, you get multiples loaded up into here, and boop. Boop. Basically, the dropper needs an intermittent signal to load more than one item at a time. Because you may have noticed with the switch there, every time I clicked it was an individual item. So if you're using this for a lot of item movement, then you need to make sure that you've got power, like clock power going to these. And what that means is you have, kind of like I set up with this auto turret over here, where when you turn it on, the power flashes that comes to the item it's activating. And that can be kind of a hassle to get that going, and also it can be pretty noisy. These make an audible click every time. So yeah, just something to be mindful about there with droppers. So yeah, let me put together kind of an example here for you. Okay, so this here is an example of what I would call an auto smelter. Now what this does, this is an example of the really, really cool things that you can do with hoppers. That, I mean, it doesn't use anything more than what I mentioned earlier. They just move items around. But what you can do is automatically load a furnace. So let's get some coal. Right? So I got some coal, and let's put something in there fun to cook. I like to cook cobblestone for stone. I do that all the time because a lot of my builds end up being made mostly of stone brick. So, all right, well, we come up here to, this is, okay, let me explain a little bit first. The furnace, items will move within it and around it depending on which side the hoppers are facing on. You can see we've got an item to be smelted, a fuel, and where the item is going, right? So the top one for a furnace will always be the source material. The back one, you can see I've got the hoppers pointed at the back of the furnace. The back one is always for the fuel. And last but not least, the bottom, you might have guessed, is for the product. So once this is made some stone, you can see it disappeared and ended up in here. That would be a really, really great way to get some vanilla XP for your character, to have building materials going at all times without you having to be there to load up the smelter at all times. You can use this for pretty much any material, and you can load it up with whatever material up here at any time. It'll sort through it itself. So yeah, as you might have noticed, there's a lot that can be done with just these simple components right here. So if you have any questions about how some of these work, or if you have an example of something that you would like to see done in these videos, a particular topic, or just a build that you would like to have me explain, go ahead and put it down in the comments below. Well, thank you so much for watching. I hope it helped you out. That's why I'm here. As always, this has been Sinclair, and until next time, take care and be well, everybody.